Hello friends, today is the third session on how to build software products, which is part of the tutorial on course on software engineering, and it is based on my book Software Engineering in the Agile World. So today we will learn about how to design the business logic for our product Smart City, and we have already seen the user stories and the front end design using mock-up screens. And today we will learn the business logic or the middle layer using object-oriented design. So in our application, we can see that there are many entities uh, for which we need to design this application. So some of these entities include the student objects, the tourist objects, the administrator object, and objects for hotels, restaurants, malls, etc. And we also need to have some functionality for registering, say, users or login functionality or session management or some more things like the database connection management, etc. So we will need a lot of classes for this application. So let us start from here. So let first of all let us discuss student classes or student objects. A new student can create name, username, password, phone number, address, and email to create new account in the system. Once account is created in the system, student can edit his her account info and can see colleges, libraries, and city info. So student objects have some properties like name, username, password, phone number, etc. And they can be involved in operations where uh, they can view city info, they can view colleges, they can view libraries, etc. And at the same time, student entities can also edit their own account. So all these you can say behavior or methods should be there for these objects or classes. So the class members will include the class variable to user type first of all, because we have specified that each user will be of some user type. So for students, let us assign a user type as S, and then a name for each student, then user ID, password, repassword, mobile number, address, email, etc. So these are the main class variables or attributes, and the class methods will include view colleges, view libraries, view city zoo, view city park, view city museum, view city restaurant, view city mall, view city map. Here you can see the main methods are like view colleges, because students can view colleges, then view libraries because students can view libraries, and then view city, because in the city info there are things like malls, restaurants, uh, museums, zoos, etc. All of them come under view city. So this could be the main method, and inside, then some methods could be view city zoo, view city park, view city museum, view city restaurant, etc. Then the tourist class will have the same kind of functionality, except that they have different kind of user view rights. So they can view what things they can view. They can view hotels. They can view city. They can view zoo. They can view park. They can view city museum, etc. So there will be methods for these functionalities. and of course the tourist each tourist will have attributes of user type. We will be assigning user type as T for tourist, and then they will have a name, a user ID, password, mobile address, email. So this much is required for the tourist class. Then for businessman can create name, user ID, password, mobile address, email to create new account in the system. Once account is created in the system, businessman can edit his her account info and can see hotels, industries, and city info. So the class members for businessman will include user type as B for businessman, and then name, user ID, password, mobile address, email. And the behaviors for businessman objects will include they can view industries, they can view city, they can view hotels. So in the city itself, they can view all those things which come in the city info, like zoo, parks, museum, restaurant, city malls, and city map. Then for administrator, the requirement is different from other kind of users. A new user as an administrator can create name, username, password, mobile address, email to create new account in the system. Once account is created in the system, an administrator can edit his her account info and can create hotels, industries, libraries, college, and city info. So the difference is that administrator users can create entities like colleges, libraries, city info, etc. Whereas the other users like students can view, they cannot create. So this is the difference. So the class members will include user type as A for administrators, and they will have name, user ID, password, mobile address, email. And class methods will include they since administrators can create cities, colleges, etc. So we will have methods like create city, create college, create libraries, create industries, create hotels, upload map, then create park, create zoo, create museum, create restaurant, create mall. And then we will have a class will which will be doing the central job of registering new users. So we will create a registration servlet, because this is a common, and this will be a central class which will do the common job of creating different kind of users in the system. So it will be a registration, and it will be servlet, because it will collect pool information from different web pages or GSP pages, and from there any input given by the users when the new user registration form is filled, it will come to this servlet, and from here there will be uh, you can say a logic to define which kind of user has come and what kind of user registration will be required. So this should be a servlet. All the logic before login, that is registration, navigation, etc., will be done from this class. Session object also will be created in this servlet. So this is one important class in the system, because it will be responsible for creating all kind of users, and at the same time from here the session objects will be created and they will be tracked further by other classes or web pages. Then the smaller classes will be like hotels, industries, colleges. They will have attributes, but they will not have any methods or behaviors involved, because they are used only for accessing their attributes. Like for hotels, we will be accessing the hotel name, address, email, phone. Similarly, for industries, there will be attributes for of industry name, address, email, industry type. For colleges, there will be attributes of college name, address, email, and departments. For libraries, there will be attributes of library name, address, email, and phone. And for city, there will be a city map, and then we will have a smaller for cities there will be city map, then parks, zoos, museums, restaurant, malls, and upload map. And then for city park, the park object or class will be a child class for the parent class city. So the child class park will have park name, address, phone, email. Similarly, the zoo child class, which is a child of the main parent class city, will have zoo name, address, phone, email. Similarly, for museum, restaurant, malls, and then we will have one more important class, which is login class. So the login class will do all the login functionality like check login, maintain session, and throughout the session when the user is logged in, the session management will be done starting from this login class. And then of course there will be connection database connection class, which will manage the database connection and data creation or data manipulation. So eventually we will end up having a class diagram like this one. So we will have classes for registration, class for login, class for database connection management, and we will have classes for student, administrator, businessman, tourist, and for uh, the child for the other classes like college, libraries, city info, industry, hotels, they will have a relationship with different kind of these objects like student class uh, have the view right for colleges, for libraries, and for city info. So the relationship is shown depicted over here. For businessman, the view rights are for hotels and city info. Similarly, for tourists, the view rights are for city info and for hotels. Okay, so and for admin will be creating all these objects. So the administrator will will have a relationship with all these objects like colleges, libraries, city info, industry, hotels. And then we will have child objects based on city info for zoo, park, restaurant, mall, and museum. So this much is all about the classes. Now let us move over to different kind of diagrams to understand how the system behaves and how the functionality should be modeled. So here is the object diagram uh, for a case where three users were concurrently using the system, and at the time that this snapshot was taken, there was some student object which was viewing a college. So there will be object ID for student object, and it is at that time it was involved in doing this transaction of view calling. And there was one more user who was also a student type, and this was doing this student was doing viewing information about some college or some other stuff. And then there was a businessman who was viewing some park. So when we create this kind of a model, a diagram, we try to think how the system is working at a given point of time, and how the relationship of different objects. Like here, the student object is interacting with the college object, Then the businessman object here is interacting with the park object. So how the objects interact during runtime, it can be depicted in object diagrams. Then we can have a lot of object diagrams like this one for to understand the software, to understand how the software will behave during runtime. Like in one object diagram can be taken when administrator is creating some objects, creating colleges. So how the interaction is happening between the administrator object and the college object, so that we can show. So there are n number of object diagrams can be created for any system to understand the functionality better. Now let us see the sequence diagrams. A sequence diagram depicts the calls made among objects to complete a business transaction. The objects interact with each other through the methods defined inside the classes. So let us have this sequence diagram for a student who is registering to create an account in the system. So how it works is uh, the registration class is called, and the method to be used here is create user. And here a student object will be created, so user type will be s. And once this call is getting completed and data it will be written in the database, so it will be done through the commit method. And using the database connection management object, the data will be saved in the database. So this way we can show how methods call from method calls are made from one class to another class, and or rather one object to another object, and how a transaction is completed using these calls. Then one more sequence diagram is here, which is used for upload city map. So the administrator object will be called with the upload map method, and this method will invoke the city object. And there the upload map method will do the job of uploading a map in the system. And once it is done, then the data will be saved through this commit method, and it will be done through the data con class to save the data in the database. One more sequence diagram is for student login. Say one student wanted to log in the system, so the login object is called for this transaction with the check login method. And this method will call the student object, and using the verify method. And this will call the datacon class or object to find out if the data is there for this user, like username and password is there in the database. So the values, if the values match in the database, then the login will be done successfully. Now one more sequence diagram to where a student is seeing a mall. So the student object will be invoked through view city mall method, and it will call the mall class, which is a child class of city. And here the commit method will be involved to find the data from the database using the datacon class or object. And once the data is found in the database, it will be displayed so that the user can see the mall's information. So similarly, like when there could be many sequence diagrams you can create uh, to understand the software application better. So at least means you should try to create as many sequence diagrams as possible to find out the complete functionality of the software product, like which methods are used to call each other to complete a transaction. Now let us move over to state chart diagrams. State chart diagrams represent life cycle of objects in the system. When a business activity is invoked in the system by a user, then an object may be created. At this stage, the object is in initializing state. When business transaction progresses, then the object may acquire different stages, and finally, when the business activity completes, then the object will get destroyed. So chart diagrams depict the whole life cycle of an object. Like for example, the student object, how the student object gets initialized, then it will go through different state changes, and finally, when it is no longer required, then it will it will be destroyed. So here is the life cycle for any student object in the system. So when a student object is called, so it should be idle in the initial state, and then there will be if the registration uh, is required for a new user, then the registration stage will be there, and then the any student object goes through this login functionality change, state change, and when once a student object gets login successfully, then they can do things like view colleges, view libraries, view cities. So different state changes will be happening for this student object, and these are all intermediate state changes. And finally, when the student object is no longer needed, then it will be destroyed, and this will be end of its life cycle. So like the one we have shown here, there could be many state chart diagrams in the system. So for example, we can have a state chart diagram for say businessman object, for administrator object. So there could be many state chart diagrams, each for each object. So this was all about our session today. We have learned the how to model the business logic using object-oriented design, using class diagrams, sequence diagrams, object diagrams, and state chart diagrams. And so far we have seen this project for creating the smart city project, uh, uh, which objects need to be created and how they are modeled. So thanks for your time, and bye for now.